Glock 34. Glock engineers drew up the G34 in 1998 after competitors learned that the long-slide G17L left little clearance in the IPSC sizing box. Length dropped to a more manageable 222 mm, but a 5.31-inch barrel kept velocity high enough for 147-grain minor power factor loads. The early production guns rode third-generation frames with finger grooves and a single recoil spring. Gen 4 replaced that spring with a dual captive unit and offered modular backstraps, while the 2018 Gen 5 added an ambidextrous slide-stop lever and shipped solely with MOS optic cuts long before red dot carry became mainstream. Match quickly realized that the slide milling reduced reciprocating mass, letting them fire splits on par with tuned 1911 race pistols. The pistol's only widely used alias, G34 Competition, appeared on internal catalogs but rarely on slides. On the cultural side, a heavily modified Taran tactical version appeared in John Wick 2, and sales data showed a brief spike after the premiere. As far as tech specs, the pistol weighs roughly 23 ounces unloaded, reaches 33 loaded with a 17-round magazine, and runs Glock's familiar safe action trio of safeties. It has seen limited SWAT duty on precision rolls, and armorers from Dallas to Seattle documented mean rounds between stoppage figures rivaling service G17s. Current production remains Gen 5 MOS only, with occasional limited runs of competition blue frames for dealer exclusives. Glock 20. The G20 arrived in 1991, giving the resurgent 10mm auto a polymer home after the Bren 10's demise. This model shares slide and frame architecture with the .45 caliber Glock 21, but lengthens magazine bodies to fit the 10mm case, yielding 15 rounds in its flush magazine configuration. The pistol retained Glock's polygonal rifling, but the barrel walls had to be greatly thickened to handle the 10mm working pressure of 37,000 psi. Alaska state troopers logged early field results showing complete penetration on moose at close range, a metric that endeared the pistol to bush pilots and smoke jump crews. FBI agents with smaller stature found the recoil excessive, which nudged the Bureau toward the relatively weaker 40 S&W. Yet many agents purchased the Glock 20 privately for backcountry use. Gen 4 introduced a short-frame grip that reduced trigger reach by 3 mm, a seemingly small change that let medium-handed shooters control the pistol in timed drills. In practice, a simple barrel swap converts the gun to fire 40 S&W or 357 SIG, making range training cheaper. And if for some reason you have a complete Glock 21 upper, you can use the Glock 20's lower to shoot 45 ACP. This makes the Glock 20 one of the more versatile pistol models Glock has ever made. The platform measures 7.6 inches overall, tips the scale at 27.5 ounces empty, and retains the usual Glock takedown procedure. No Gen 5 has surfaced, although gunsmiths commonly retrofit factory optic-ready slides from the long-slide G40. Retail shelves still list both Gen 3 and Gen 4 versions, and used prices remain steady because hikers trust the design against brown bear encounters. Glock 21. Glock targeted the American .45 auto market in 1990 by enlarging the Glock 17's blueprint. The G21's double-stack magazine holds 13 cartridges, nearly doubling the M1911's capacity, while shaving several ounces in weight. This makes it one of the higher-capacity .45 auto pistols on the market, only beaten by the FNX 45, which accepts a 15-round magazine. The Orlando Police Department reported fewer parts failures than with steel frame alternatives, and the pistol soon entered competitive bowling pin events where its low bore axis helped beat shot timers by fractions that mattered. In 2007, the short-frame variant appeared, thinning the backstrap to court operators with gloves and smaller-handed recruits. An interesting production quirk shows up on some early Austrian-made 21s that lack the USA barrel markings, yet still carry Smyrna proof dates. Collectors frequently debate the crossover serial blocks. The pistol's 4.6-inch barrel, safe action control suite, and 29.8-ounce unloaded weight make it manageable for rapid strings, especially with 230-grain hardball ammunition. Although the U.S. military never granted it an NSN, Marine Corps Force Recon instructors evaluated a small batch for maritime raid force roles before logistical commonality steered procurement elsewhere. Today, only the Gen 4 version remains in the catalog, pending a rumored MOS upgrade. Surveilled civilian owners often hot rod the design with .45 superloads, and chronograph data regularly hits 1,300 feet per second using 185-grain projectiles, provided the factory recoil spring is swapped out for a 22-pounder and a fully supported barrel is used. A more radical option involves converting the Glock 21 to .460 Roland, a slightly longer 45 ACP case, loaded to .44 Magnum levels of pressure. With the right compensator and spring setup, the platform can safely launch 230-grain bullets at 1,350 feet per second, rivaling mid-range .44 Magnum energy. Although the conversion kit adds length and muzzle weight, it keeps the frame intact and feeds from standard G21 magazines. Many backcountry hikers and hog hunters use the 460 Roland setup as a bare defense rig, and some gunsmiths even port the slide to balance recoil impulses. Field reports note consistent penetration on large game through shoulder bone, and Glock's polymer frame continues to hold up under the added stress when upgraded properly. Glock 42. Glock's first all-American build surfaced at the 2014 SHOT Show. Import guidelines had blocked earlier 380 offerings, so Smyrna engineers produced the 42 entirely in Georgia and adopted a locked breech action to keep slide weight down. At 13.8 ounces empty and 0.94 inches wide, the gun became popular with airline crews flying under the Federal Flight Deck Officer Program. Field stripping remains identical to full-size models, an intentional choice that lets armorers maintain one set of tools. Magazine bodies carry 6 rounds, but aftermarket base plates extend capacity to 8 without altering grip geometry. An oval firing pin block, unique to this model, provides added bearing surface inside the narrow slide. Early production used coated trigger bars that occasionally showed finish wear. Glock quietly updated the part in 2016, and distributor returns dropped sharply thereafter. Range tests reveal soft recoil, especially with 95-grain practice ammunition, and penetration meets FBI gel minimums when loaded with modern bonded hollow points. Current sales stay strong in Gulf region climates, where ankle carry dominates. Glock 19X. The 19X story begins with the 2017 XM17 trials, where Glock submitted a shortened slide atop a full-length grip to satisfy magazine metrics without sacrificing holster clearance. Although SIG won the contract, Glock repackaged the design in 2019 for civilian sale, moving 100,000 units in 6 months according to company press releases. The pistol ships in Coyote Tan NPVD, includes one 17-round and 2 19-round magazines, and retains the lanyard loop mandated by Army drop test procedures. Internally, it mirrors Gen 5 specifications, running a marksman barrel, ambidextrous slide stops, and a flared magazine well, but omits front serrations to preserve holster compatibility with issued retention rigs. Some Norwegian Home Guard units adopted the configuration for vehicle crews, noting that the compact slide clears turret armor more easily than a full G17, while the longer grip aids winter glove control. The pistol measures 7.44 inches front to back and weighs 31 ounces loaded. Users have reported that the extended slide bevel eases reholstering into deep Kydex concealed rigs. Production remains steady, and dealer surveys often list the Glock 19X among the top 5 Glock SKUs, despite the continuously growing number of Glock 19X clones on the market. Glock 23.
Glock introduced the compact 40 S&W 23 in 1990, alongside the full-size 22 meeting FBI criteria for penetration and wound volume after the Miami shootout. The frame duplicates G19 proportions, but incorporates a third frame pin and heavier slide to temper the higher impulse.
Early Gen 2 slides marked HRM signify high-rate manufacture during surging law enforcement orders. Those fetch premiums with collectors. Agencies such as the DEA and U.S. Marshals carried the pistol for 2 decades, and field data showed reliable barrier performance against car bodies. A limited 2009 run featured rough textured frame 2 panels and fishgill serrations before customer feedback favored traditional straight cuts. The pistol carries 13 rounds, tips the scale at 31 ounces loaded, and accepts caliber conversion barrels for 9mm or 357 SIG, an economy appreciated during training cycles. Gen 5 adds a marksman barrel and deletes finger grooves. Yet many plainclothes officers still favor Gen 3 frames because wide aftermarket parts support legacy triggers. Current catalogs list all 3 generations, and surplus agencies often refurbish Gen 3s for reserve units rather than scrap them, evidence of durable service lives. Glock 22. Arriving in 1990, the full-size 40 S&W Glock 22 capitalized on Smith & Wesson's new cartridge before its inventors shipped a competing pistol. Sharing holsters with the 9mm 17 simplified police procurement, and by 1998, the model equipped a majority of U.S. patrol officers. The polygonal barrel maintained velocity after thousands of duty rounds, delaying expensive replacements. A force-on-force red slide variant, called the G22P, allowed identical handling in simunition classes, which streamlined departmental transition programs. The gun's 4.49-inch barrel, 15-round magazine, and 25-ounce unloaded weight struck a balance between power and carry comfort, though some recruits needed extra recoil control instruction. As agencies migrated back to 9mm, many surplus G22s entered civilian channels, and hobbyists discovered that a 9mm conversion barrel plus lighter recoil spring created an inexpensive range setup. The newest adopts an over-travel limiting trigger shoe and an NDLC slide coating proven in salt fog tests. Law enforcement trainers continue to favor the model for shoothouse drills because its manual of arms matches current 9mm service Glocks. Glock 26. Released in 1995 during the concealed carry boom, the Glock 26, also known as the Baby Glock, shaved the G19's barrel to 3.43 inches and introduced a dual captive recoil spring that later migrated to Gen 4 service pistols. The 10-round flush magazine kept thickness near an inch, yet compatibility with larger magazines gave owners modular capacity. Range officers for the Illinois State Police discovered recruits scoring higher with the Baby Glock at 15 yards than with snub-nose revolvers the pistol replaced. Competitive curiosity followed. One shooter won a Glock Shooting Sports Foundation match using a bone stock 26 against opticsless full-size guns. The slide's added mass over micro 9s translates to milder muzzle rise, a trait many carriers value more than absolute thinness. Gen 5 brings forward serrations, a flared magwell, and the marksman barrel while maintaining the original slide width. Custom shops offer RMRCC cuts and grip reductions, yet many experienced owners leave the gun stock, citing flawless reliability over 20-plus years. New production remains split between Austria and Georgia, and retail demand endures despite a crowded micro-compact market. Glock 17. The original 9mm service Glock completed Austrian acceptance trials in 1982, surviving mud, sand, and -40 Celsius freeze testing that sidelined traditional designs. Serial numbers up to 20,000 received P80 roll marks for military issue, and those pistols carry a premium today. The slide-stop lever, absent on early prototypes, entered production after field feedback from Austrian Gebirgsjäger troops requested faster lockback verification while wearing gloves. The second-generation frame added checkering and a third frame pin when .40 caliber conversions were proposed. By 2007, cumulative world sales passed 5 million. By 2023, the figure exceeded 23 million across all Glock models, with the 17 still leading. Technical constants include a 4.49-inch barrel, 17-round magazine, and 22-ounce unloaded weight, though finishes evolved from Tenefer to NDLC for tougher corrosion resistance. Dozens of militaries field the pistol, from British Royal Marines to Finnish border guards, and U.S. agencies such as CBP designate it as an authorized duty sidearm. The Gen 5 update removed finger grooves, added ambidextrous controls, and refined barrel geometry for sub-2-inch groups at 25 yards in factory tests. Ongoing production in 3 countries ensures parts availability, and armorer schools continue to use the 17 as the baseline for all Glock maintenance instruction. Glock 19. The compact Glock 19, introduced in 1988, shortened the Glock 17's slide by half an inch, yielding a pistol that remains small enough for concealed carry, yet large enough for duty holsters. Early Gen 2 frames lacked accessory rails, but undercover officers valued magazine commonality with issued 17s. Special Forces adopted the model unofficially before SOCOM formalized it as the Mk27 Mod 0, noting that the shorter slide reduced snagging in confined urban environments. California's handgun roster froze on the Gen 3, keeping that variant in production long after other states shifted to later generations. In 2017, the Gen 5 introduced a marksman barrel, forward cocking serrations, and a flared magazine well, features informed by FBI 19M trials where agents requested faster reloads under stress. A crossover 19X pairs the compact slide with a full-size grip, but the original 19 still outsells it globally. Cultural resonance remains high. Prop masters have issued the model to television protagonists ranging from federal agents to comic book vigilantes, giving the pistol wide recognition, even among non-shooters. Police trade-ins and used Glock 19s remain hot commodities in the civilian market, often snapped up within days of hitting dealer shelves. The reason is simple. This pistol straddles nearly every role a handgun could be asked to fill. It's compact enough for concealed carry, large enough for duty use, and accurate enough for entry-level competition, all without needing aftermarket tweaks. With a flashlight and a red dot, it becomes a formidable home defense setup. Strip it back to irons and a plain Kydex holster, and it'll disappear under a t-shirt. The Gen 3 and Gen 4 models in particular enjoy a cult-like following among tinkerers and prepper communities due to their massive parts compatibility and ease of maintenance. Purists claim that if you're only going to own one handgun, it might as well be a Glock 19. There isn't a scenario it doesn't fit. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, pass it along to your fellow gun geeks, and subscribe to catch more content like this. Thanks for watching.